We're turning into Paul's letter to the Hebrews. It's the 11th chapter, verses 1 through 3. This is one of the classic definitions of faith. Also, it sets us up for the expiration of the blessed assurance. Let's listen for this word of assurance that's coming to us from Hebrews. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, and the conviction of things not seen. Indeed, by faith our ancestors received approval. By faith we understand that the worlds were prepared by the word of God, so that what is seen was made from things that are not visible. The conviction of things not seen. The author of today's title is Frances J. Fanny Crosby. Footnote: yes, she's a relative to Bing Crosby, and also I think was it Bob Crosby that played guitar for the group The Byrds that wrote that one song, Turn, 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 based on Ecclesiastes chapter 3. So this is who you might say is the matriarch of the Crosby music line. She was born in 1820. She lived a life of conviction of things not seen. A year ago, when Kevin and Heidi Chang were here with us, we featured the Ode to Joy, written by Ludwig van Beethoven. That's the one that goes in English, joyful, joyful, we adore thee. We pointed out the fact that Beethoven wrote this beautiful song, but never heard it performed. Beethoven was known to be 95% deaf at the time he wrote the music. Frances J. Crosby was not born blind, but she caught a cold and developed inflammation of the eyes. She was just 6 weeks old. A mustard poultice was applied, but it did not help. So, at the age of 6 weeks, Fanny was legally blind, and she would remain so for the rest of her life. Fortunately, her family did not park her in the corner and treat her like an invalid. They found ways to give her an education. Because of the exposure to education, it was discovered that Fanny had a way with words. She could write poetry at the drop of a hat. Growing up in a Christian family, Fanny was, excuse me, I just had a hiccup in my esophagus. I apologize. But it's found that she could write poetry at a drop of a hat. And so growing up in a Christian family, she had a lot of her reading education done with the Bible. So by the time she was about 12 years old, she had memorized large parts of the Bible. She had learned the books of Moses, the first 5 books of the Bible. Then she went on to learn most of the Psalms, Proverbs, and the Song of Solomon. And she also learned the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. She had these memorized and could quote from them at any time in her life. And of course, with this knowledge in the Bible and her gift for words, her poetry subjects began to draw from the Bible, and she wrote many spiritual poems. And so Fanny was also introduced to people who liked to write music, because music teachers were brought in to her family home. Her parents wanted both her and her siblings to have music training. And so it was that she began to be introduced to musicians who liked to write melodies. So all told, Frances J. Crosby wrote 9,000 poems, and 8,000 of them were turned into hymns. According to hymnary.com, she has still 3,315 total hymns and about 100 hymnals to this day. 7 of her songs are in the United Methodist Hymnal. And again, Fanny Crosby was so prolific as a songwriter that her publishers had to publish many of her works under pen names or pseudonyms. And so it was a new little songbook put out by a publishing company, oh, yes, Fanny Crosby might be listed 3 or 4 times. But then alongside Fanny Crosby would be a Stanley or somebody whose last name ended in Francis. Also, there were Edwards and Bruces. Those who research music history, they figured out that there were over 250 pen names under which Fanny Crosby had her works published. And so it is again, there may be entire songbooklets that were actually all 100% Crosby songbooklets, but the music publishers wisely realized they needed to have the appearance of spreading it around so that other authors would continue to submit and not be discouraged and think that Mrs. Crosby had everything covered. But with all of this production, perhaps her best loved song is Blessed Assurance. It is said that it came to her in about 30 minutes. See, Frances was visiting her good friend, Phoebe Knapp, on the day Phoebe had a new parlor organ delivered to her home. And Phoebe had just composed a new melody. She was all excited about the new parlor organ. And so Phoebe played this new song on the new organ. What do you think? Phoebe asked. And Frances replied with these words right there. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. Fanny Crosby wrote Blessed Assurance right then and there, and we figure out it only took her 10 minutes per verse to get the 3 verses done in that very same afternoon. Of course, in her life, she never actually saw the words of her songs ever printed on an actual page, but she got to hear them many times in the worship of God. Her driving force was her Christian faith. She believed very much in the rescue mission movement. So she lived most of her life in the New York City area, and she always rented apartments that were near the rougher neighborhoods. And she would often go in person to the rescue missions and talk to the people there and encourage them. And quite often she would say, you know that song you like? Yes, I wrote that. I wrote that for you. She would spend this time in person talking to people about why she wrote Rescue the Perishing. I wrote that for you right down here at the rescue mission. Or, of course, she would want to talk to them about the blessed assurance that she found from Jesus. And I'm sure it would inspire a number of people who felt down in their luck to realize, here's this woman wearing tinted glasses who clearly cannot see my face, and yet she found something to do with her life. And so perhaps some people down in their luck feeling sorry for themselves would feel like turning it around, because if Mrs. Crosby can do it, surely I can do it. And so from a life of supposed disadvantage, she has given us blessed assurance to celebrate the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. She never actually saw her words in music, but that did not stop her, nor does it have to stop us from singing. Amen.